The school courtyard was buzzing as the final bell rang and students rushed out, laughing, texting, calling rides home. Among them was Aaliyah, walking quietly with her worn-out backpack slung over one shoulder. She didn't talk much, and honestly, most people didn't even notice her until today. A group of girls from the senior batch, known more for their pranks than their grades, stood blocking her path. Without warning, one of them grabbed her bag and dumped its contents onto the pavement. Right in front of everyone, gasps echoed. Not because of the act, but because of what fell out. Among her scattered books and notebooks was something no one expected to see: a perfectly folded military cadet uniform. The fabric was crisp, the insignia was real, and the silence that followed was louder than any insult that had just been thrown her way. For a second, nobody moved. Who was this quiet girl? Why did she have that uniform in her bag? Was it hers? Or someone else's? Aaliyah simply knelt down, calm and composed, slowly picking up her things like nothing had happened. But her silence didn't feel weak. It felt strong, controlled, like someone trained to stay focused under pressure. One of the girls, still trying to act tough, laughed nervously. But even she couldn't hide the confusion written all over her face. Whispers spread. Students began recording, speculating, some backing away as if they were standing in front of someone they suddenly didn't understand. And Aaliyah. She didn't say a word. She just picked up the uniform, brushed it off gently, and placed it back in her bag like it was something sacred. As she stood up and made eye contact with the group, something in her expression changed. Not anger, not fear. Just ... purpose. That's when one of the teachers stepped outside and froze to his eyes locked on the patch on her uniform. What happened next? No one could have predicted. But this quiet girl, she was about to change everything they thought they knew. Mr. Hamid, the teacher who had just stepped out, stared at the uniform like he had seen a ghost. For a few seconds, he didn't even blink. Aaliyah noticed but didn't react. She simply slung the bag back over her shoulder and turned to leave. But the crowd around her didn't move. Everyone stood frozen, watching, wondering. Rumors started before she even reached the school gate. She's in the army. Her brother's in special forces. That patch was for combat training. No one knew for sure. The only thing they knew was that Aaliyah had never mentioned anything like this before. She was always quiet. Always alone, barely talked in class, never joined after-school activities, and avoided unnecessary attention. But now, everyone wanted to know more. That patch on her uniform wasn't just a decoration, not something. Some recognized it as a mark worn only by cadets selected for advanced defense training. That program was tough to get into, even tougher to complete. And the fact that it was in her bag, folded with care, meant it wasn't a joke or a costume. Back in the staff room, Mr. Hamid pulled out a file from his drawer and flipped through pages until he stopped on one. His hands trembled slightly as he looked at her records. There was nothing unusual: average grades, no complaints, no achievements listed. But something didn't add up. She didn't fit into the usual school mold. And now it was obvious she had a side no one knew about. At home, Aaliyah quietly shut her bedroom door and opened a locked drawer. Inside were certificates, photos, and a letter marked with an official seal. Her eyes rested on it for a long time. She knew today had changed everything. And tomorrow, even more was coming. But she wasn't afraid. She was ready. The next morning, Aaliyah walked through the school gates as if nothing had happened. But everything had changed. Students turned to look. Whispers followed her down the corridor, and even some teachers paused mid-sentence when she passed by. The same group that had dumped her bag the day before now avoided eye contact. No apologies, just silence. But behind their quiet stares was a mixture of curiosity and fear. Who really was this girl? In the principal's office, Mr. Hamid sat across from Mrs. Noreen, the headmistress. He lowered his voice. "I think she's part of the National Youth Defense Program," he said. "It's only a handful of students across the country get in. But why wasn't it in her file?" Mrs. Noreen looked concerned. "Do her parents even know she's in something like that?" The truth was, even her family didn't fully understand. Her mother thought it was just some summer camp. Her uncle, who had once served in the military, was the only one who knew the whole story. He was the one who had pulled some strings to get her enrolled. But Aliyah had kept it to herself, not out of shame, but because she knew people wouldn't take her seriously. Until now. Meanwhile, one of the girls from the groups, Sarah, couldn't stop thinking about the moment the uniform hit the ground. That expression on Aliyah's face, the way she didn't flinch, kept replaying in her mind. Sarah had a brother in the military, and she recognized that look. It wasn't pride or arrogance. It was discipline, focus, and maybe a bit of hidden pain. Later that day, an announcement was made. The school had been selected to host a national-level youth leadership event. Aliyah's name was read out loud as one of the nominees for the organizing team. The hall went silent again. Why her? What did she know that they didn't? And why did Mr. Hamid's face go pale the moment her name was mentioned? The questions were piling up, but the answers still locked behind Aliyah's calm, unreadable eyes. The days that followed were anything but normal. Aliyah, now suddenly in the spotlight, kept moving with quiet determination. She never corrected the rumors, never explained herself, and never reacted to the stares or questions. But her presence had shifted something in the school. Teachers spoke to her more carefully. Students looked at her with a strange mix of respect and doubt. Some thought she was faking it. Others believed she was hiding something bigger. As the National Youth Leadership event approached, tension built. The school was buzzing with preparation, and Aliyah was at the center of it all. She organized schedules, managed logistics, and even led team discussions, always calm, always a step ahead. But it wasn't just the event making people nervous. There were whispers now, deeper than before. Some said her name had been flagged during a recent visit by a retired Army colonel. Others claimed she'd been seen entering the local defense office on a weekend. No one could confirm anything, but everyone was watching. Sarah, who had once mocked Aliyah, now found herself drawn to her. She started noticing the way Aliyah would check exits, scan rooms quietly, and never sit with her back to the door. It wasn't just habit, it was training. One afternoon, Sarah followed her out of curiosity and saw Aliyah hand over a sealed envelope to a man waiting in a black car. He didn't speak, just took the envelope and drove off. Meanwhile, Mr. Hamid was digging deeper. He found an old newsletter from 3 years ago with a blurry photo of a youth cadet receiving an award from the Army chief. The face looked familiar, sharp eyes. Same posture was Aliyah, but her name had been listed under a different ID number now. Strange phone calls were coming to the school office. Unmarked, no one spoke when the calls were answered, just silence and a click. The administration began to worry. Was someone keeping tabs on her? Or was she keeping tabs on someone else? Everyone could feel it. Now something was coming. And whatever it was, Aliyah was right in the center of it. 2 days before the leadership event, something unexpected happened. A government vehicle pulled up quietly outside the school gate. No sirens, no uniforms, just two plainclothes officials who asked to speak with Aliyah in private. The news spread like wildfire. Students pressed their faces to the classroom windows. Teachers exchanged anxious glances, and Mr. Hamid rushed to the principal's office without waiting for permission. Inside the small conference room, Aliyah sat calmly across from the officials. One of them, a stern-faced woman with a badge clipped inside her coat, opened a folder and placed a photo in front of her. Aliyah's face changed ever so slightly, a blink too long, a breath held in. The photo wasn't of her. It was of a man late 30s, sharp jawline, wearing a civilian jacket, but with a Defense Force tattoo visible just above his wrist. The woman leaned in and said, "We think he might try to make contact during the event. Has he reached out already?" Outside that room, Mr. Hamid tried to listen through the wall. He knew something serious was going on. This wasn't about school anymore. It was bigger. Much bigger. That night, Aliyah returned home unusually late. She didn't go to her room. Instead, she pulled down a dusty metal box hidden behind a shelf. Inside were several photos, some torn, some faded. One of them showed the same man from the government file, standing next to her uncle, both in military gear. On the back, written in hurried handwriting, "Missing. Presumed rogue. Do not engage without clearance." Meanwhile, Sarah received a message from an unknown number. It contained only one line: "Stay away from Aliyah during the event." No sender. Number. Context. Now the stakes were no longer about school gossip or uniforms. Aliyah was caught between a dangerous truth and a public event crawling with eyes, cameras, and possibly someone no one wanted to find. The question wasn't just who Aliyah really was anymore. It was who else knew, and what they were planning to do next. The day of the National Youth Leadership event arrived under tight security. Uniformed officers stood at key points around the school grounds, but they blended in just enough not to alarm the students, parents, dignitar,